deal. They're gonna each take about 10 minutes max, maybe less, since there's so many of us, and I know that didn't give you much time, to just introduce themselves and why they're running for county commissioner. And then as soon as they're done, we're gonna open it up for questions. When you ask a question, please let them know if you have a particular candidate that you want to answer that question, or if you want them all to answer that question, so that they know who to answer and when to answer. Does that make sense? Okay. The other challenge we have is that we are not here to have them debate each other and argue with each other, or us debate or argue with them. We just want to learn about who they are, why they're running, and what they plan to do if they were on the commission. So keep everything very respectful, very calm, so that we can just learn about them. Okay? Any questions? Anybody?
Who's in the fifth chair?
I thought there were 5, but it'll just be a
Dennis is not
yeah,
here.
where is Dennis? Not here?
I don't know.
Okay. We don't know. That's okay.
You went to church
Um,
today, or?
No.
It is a home-like environment, so if you need to move to be in front of the air for a little bit, unless you're a candidate.
I'm not talking to you. Thanks for clarifying that for me.
You started to get up.
Feel free to do so. I can bring a fan up for you.
No,
guys,
we're
actually.
fine.
Okay.
We're fine.
Signal me if you want a fan.
No,
Because
we're
I'll put a fan on. So,
can't handle
if
the
you need
heat, I
to
shouldn't be
move
in
for
the
that, the fudge will melt fast. So get up and eat it as much as you want before it's too soft.
And I made it. It's my gold milk fudge.
It
Oh,
is.
yeah.
It is. So enjoy that, it's a treat. The snacks, all that stuff, just be at home. Feel as though this is my house, our house, and we're all hanging out, and we're gonna get to know them so we can vote more effectively, okay? Bathrooms are down the hall on the left. If you need anything, just slide me down and I'll get it for you. And so as soon as they introduce themselves, we'll just open it up to our question and answer time. All right?
Before they get started, do y'all want some water or something up there to be drinking?
Maybe in a little bit. Halfway through, if our tongue's hanging out, you'll know.
Are you gonna start panting?
We'll get you something.
Okay. I'm gonna pray, we'll get started. Father God, we are grateful to you for this opportunity and that you have placed us all in a nation where we get to participate in this process. That we get to vote and hold accountable those that we elect into office. And I ask that you help us to all increase in knowledge and wisdom on all of the candidates, not just these tonight, but for all of them, so that we can vote effectively, so that we can vote for your kingdom, and so that we can honor you with the position you've given us in this nation in this time. We ask for all of the candidates to be led by you and your spirit to deliver the message that needs to be delivered with clarity and understanding, and that you would help us all gain the knowledge that we need to do your will. We ask for your comfort, your blessing on the families of those in Hardin and the helicopter, the plane accident in the mountains. Things happen suddenly, and I pray that we would live in each and every moment certain of our eternity, and help us to do that with each other. Thank you again for this opportunity. May your spirit lead us as we go through this evening. In Jesus' name, amen. Let's start with Holly. We'll let ladies go first, and we'll just go right on across. If you guys want, I'm fine to pull them off and pass it. I don't know how much words are. They might pick you up if you want to just talk a little bit louder.
Well, I'm Holly Jennings. I'm certainly not going to take 10 minutes to explain who I am. Thanks, Shannon. You know, the reason I'm running for office is because of each of you. I have watched our county commissioners make decisions that are really, they don't have your best interests in mind. And that's concerning. When I go to doors and I talk to different individuals, I bring up 3 things. One is transparency. I'm really concerned about the fact that we have meetings at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday and we don't record them. how do we know what's going on unless you're able to be there? And most of us work jobs. And I know that 9 a.m. on Tuesday is a statutory requirement, but I think there's some things that we can do to change that and make it more accessible. The second thing the reason I'm running is fiscal responsibility. We are in a time that inflation is crazy. Everything is going up. I mean, I paid $60 for less than a tank of gas the other day. And I know a lot of that is, when you look at that's federal and that's state, but I think there are things that we can do at the local level as well. You know, our mill levies are directly tied to the budget at the county commissioner level. And when you reduce that budget, there's an opportunity to reduce mill levies. And I think that's one of the first places that we can look at. And I also think about property taxes. I think there's some things that we can do there. The third reason that I'm running is actually tied to that is private property rights. You know, I know a couple of these gentlemen up here have had those property rights trampled on. And I'm really concerned about that. You know, I carry the Constitution of the United States and the Wyoming Constitution. I was in the newspaper for saying I carry my Constitution and my 9mm in my purse. Right now, I've got, well, I got both of them with me and the 9mm in my purse on my car. But these documents are very important. They help us make every decision with addition of the Bible. Those 3 documents should be our guiding forces. And I think we can make every decision based on them. So I think that's probably the biggest reason why I'm running who I am. I've lived in Sheridan headed on 20 years. I can't believe it's been that long. Somebody told me that an individual was telling people that I'm too young to be in office. And at first I was like, oh, I can't believe they'd say that. And then I was like, okay, I guess if you think I'm that young, we'll go with that. But almost been here 20 years. I have a degree from Sheridan College in biology. I have a Bachelor of Science in Biology from Montana State. Almost a Bachelor of Chemistry, but that required another round of calculus and physics. Difficult. So anyway, I'm always open for questions. I really believe that integrity matters, and what you say should be what you mean. And there you go. Let's do this. Just don't hit me in the face.
Just gonna have to
Don't
hold
make it
it.
easier.
There you go.
Okay.
We'll get you.
Okay, just give it back to me.
What page do you know? I do know the difference between a girl and a boy, so I don't want to use that.
Good evening, my name is Brian Helfrich. She didn't take her full 10, so I'm going to take hers, so it puts us at 20 minutes, right? Hopefully it'll be very brief. I'm running for county commissioner because I believe in the Constitution. I had to borrow hers because I had one of those discombobulated days and it's still happening. So I don't have any notes, so this is off the cuff. I believe that our lives have to have a sense or a sort of something to fall back on. And that's what the Constitution is. And I believe we've abused it greatly. The preamble of Wyoming's Constitution is wonderful. Very simple to read. We, the people of the state of Wyoming, grateful to God. Boy, we have a lot to be grateful to, and our country has lost thankfulness. For our civil, political, and religious liberties, and desiring to secure them to ourselves and perpetuate them to our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution. That's why I'm here. As Holly said, for everyone here, but also for our children and our grandchildren. I did move out here for the lifestyle. I graduated with, girls are smart. I mean, and I was a loser. And they all went to be lawyers and that. I came out here for the lifestyle. I really did. I loved Wyoming. I loved the freedom of it. And I want to protect it for next generations. And I don't believe we're doing that. Holly talked about property rights being trampled on. I don't even know if we have any property rights anymore. She talked about taxes. I knock on some of these doors of some of these older people, and nothing breaks my heart more than when they work their whole life and they can't enhance their income anymore now, and they're paying $100 a month more than what they were. Not $100 a year, $100 more for taxes. What are we doing with the money? I also live here for morality. John Adams said that if we don't have, I'm butchering this, I was supposed to write this down today, but we didn't have a chance to look at it. If we let our passions go unbridled without morality, and I forget the other word, our society will be lost, basically. This freedom we have today only works for this freedom we have today only works for religious and immoral people, and that's what he's talking about. So how would that be different than in the days of the king? Well, in the days of the king, you were told what to think, and if you read your Bible, you'll see that as the king went down, the people went down with him. But if you look at with what we have today, when you change the hearts of the people to where anything goes, that type of freedom brings in unbridled passions that is hard to come back from. We make things right that aren't right. And I think we're living that today. In fact, I know we're living that today. And that's another one of those reasons why I want to be here for that. And so the biggest thing is freedom. I want success for your kids and grandkids. I want success for mine. My vision of what success is the freedom that at the end of their life they've come to the Lord in the right fashion. And I don't believe that you can come to the Lord without freedom. That makes it imperative. I mean, that's one of the steps that are imperative to come to Him. When you're restrained in that, look at our society today. As we're polarized, you can't discuss anything with anyone anymore, and so everyone's mad at everyone. With freedom, if we sit back with civility and freedom, you can plant seeds. And then you'll be successful if you come to the right conclusion. The right conclusion for us right now is our parameters of the Constitution. I read through this handbook that Jason has, and I thought, wow, cool. It was written by the governor. I'm thinking, well, you don't need any of us. Either that or we're going to have so much power that it's unbelievable. You have nothing. The Constitution is supposed to be our parameters. Our life is supposed to be based upon that. And that gives us the freedom to get to the religious liberties. And if we're not going to obey it, why have it? This was never. They asked Franklin what he just created, and he said, we've created a republic if you can keep it. And so that's part of why I'm here, is because we need to go back and try to keep this republic. And if we don't start doing some changing soon. Last time they said we didn't have any change, so they wouldn't give you any change back. I think they stockpiled this time. All you're going to have is nickels and dimes and quarters. I think they got changed this time. We need change of heart, change of mind. And that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Well, I'm Michael Arzy, and I'm running for county commissioner, and these are the reasons that I'm running. First off, county commission should be an open board, open to you, their constituents, rather than making decisions and then just going and doing the rubber stamp vote. I'm kind of fortunate, but in the respects that I can kind of get to some of the county commissioner meetings, well, most of them I've been attending to, and they don't much like me in there because I seem to be the person dissenting a lot of times. But none of the county commissioners, when they go to vote on an item, it's just a rubber stamp right down the line, 5 people. And we changed from, I think it was 2008, we changed from 3 to actually 5 to get a better diversity and representation of the entire population of Sheridan County. But I see no debate on issues. I see no dialogue on issues. And it's just, they've already made up their minds how they're going to do these votes, and they just do it. When you go to a county commissioners meeting, if you're fortunate to get to one, there's the minutes right outside the room, but you don't get to see that minutes a week in advance or 3 days in advance to prepare for any of it at all. It's just right there. And so you have 10 minutes to develop an argument on a certain issue, and 10 minutes is not enough time a lot of times to do the research. And so as far as the transparency is concerned, I'm all for actually, you know, they say, yeah, we do what is lawful and we post our meeting dates and stuff like that in the Sheridan Press, but most of the time, most people do not get the Sheridan Press. I'd like to see that posting in other newspapers like the Bounty. I'd like to see it on social media. I'd like to see it advertised on the radio stations so that people are aware of the issues and know when they need to try and be at one of the meetings. And they are doing a lot of things knowing that they're not going to get opposition because, like Holly said, 9 o'clock on a Tuesday is not a very convenient time for people to be there. So they'll vote something, and then next thing you know, it's like you got blindsided with an issue that you never even knew that was coming up. Case in point, I got a tip on this, and I started doing some research on a road closure that they were trying to do. It's called Carbon Hill Road. And the only reason that they're trying to close this, well, not just close this road, but abandon it and give it back to the landowner, the adjacent landowner, is so that that person can put a solar farm in up there. You can't have a county public right-of-way close to a solar farm. Anyway, I did some research on it, and I come up with some stuff, and I talked against it. I got up and I talked against it. They still voted to what they're going to do. They have to do another vote on it, and they'll probably do that in a business meeting. And I haven't heard the outcome of it, but I produced a document that their witness, who was the county engineer, is supposed to look up all of the facts pertaining to this road, and he didn't see the third document that I was able to find. It was just right there. It was the third page that I flipped. I found it. And what it was that county road, the last action on that county road was there was a resolution by the 3 county commissioners at the time that road was to remain an open public road. Right now, there's a lock on the gate up there. It is not an open public road right now, but it's supposed to be. Okay? Well, the county engineer, I showed him this document, and I said, you told me that road was not even used, and even it was abandoned back in 1928. And he said, well, I don't even remember the conversation, but I did. I understood it. And so this is a bureaucratic two-step that happens quite often in the county that we need to get something taken care of about that too. Anyway, make short of it, the county attorney actually took that piece of paper, went in and made copies of it so everybody gets to know that the last action on that was actually a voted unanimous county road to be remain open to the public. I don't know if it'll do us any good. I'm hoping that they do not do things like that, but these things happen all the time. Another issue that really was, it kind of chokes me up because I put a lot of myself into this. Last fall, as you know, we had a special session down at the State Cheyenne Legislature. I was asked to write a resolution and see if the county commissioners would not support the fact, or not to go out on a limb and say, yeah, we don't want the mask and the vaccine mandates, we don't want that. But we are supporting our legislature, our state legislature, to get together and debate this issue. And so I read this to them. It took me 2 nights to do the resolution to make it come out right and yet not be a harmful thing to them. And I read it to them, and I gave them all a copy, and I never got a signed copy back. And so they said, again, they would look at that in their own business meetings. And so then time was growing short. I think 2 days before we were going to Cheyenne. And so I called one of them, and I said, "What happened to my resolution? Did you guys sign it?" What happened? They said, "No, we called the state legislators, and they said it wouldn't do any good." And I thought about that, and I thought, well, okay, that's dead in the water. Well, when I got down to Cheyenne, I started talking to some of the state legislators that were down there. And the only one that I can think of that they maybe talked to, I don't talk to him very often anyway, because he's not my kind of guy. He's not my kind of legislator. He's, you know, and so, but everybody else from Sheridan, I talked to him, and nobody got a phone call from the county commission as to whether or not. So they flat lied to me. They basically just flat lied to me. Transparency is a must thing. You have to be able to look yourself in the mirror when you're shaving the next day. And if you're not, when you're putting on your makeup, okay, but the whole point is that I guess, you just,
Sorry, Mike.
I guess what I'm saying is that if you're an upstanding man and you make a decision and you stand by that decision and you know that you've made it, you've prayed on it, you've come to terms with it, and then you make your decision, then you've done everything that you can. But what's going on here is the exact opposite of that in the county commission. It is so important. Here's what we all agree about. Every one of us, even if Dennis was here, we've all talked about this, we all got together, we all prayed on it. Any one of us, it's not so much any one of us that does not get elected, but what is the most important thing here is that there are 3 seats available out of 5. And if we can flip 3 seats to God-fearing, constitutionally minded, lowering taxes type of leadership, the frivolous spending goes out the window because we have a majority and you've got more money in your pocket and you might even get some more infrastructure fixed around here. I mean, I can point out, I'm somewhat of an engineer in my own respects because I've built roads forever all over the state. And I can show you places where we have hazards for kids walking to school. The point I'm thinking of is out at Bighorn. I see kids, there's a real tight bridge out there, you know, that's county. That's something the county can do something with. But yet they turn around and instead of doing that, what they'll do is they'll spend $1.2 million to turn Brook Street, which is kind of abandoned now, into some kind of a park. That's the last thing that they voted to do. I'm going, no, the most important thing that you can do is your public's health and safety. That's what the Constitution says that the county commissioners are responsible for, is your constituents' public health and safety. All right? One other thing, I think, I'm getting close to 10 minutes, but these mandates that we went through, I see kids that there's some psychological challenges that are going on. You know, I've been asked to leave school board meetings myself. I've got a niece that's meaner than I am, and she's almost been in jail, but I've told her several times I have bail money for her. The mandates are hurting the kids, and they've done that. And they were the last people that were allowed to take the mask off. A mandate is not a law. Nowhere in that Constitution will you see anywhere in there that says a mandate is a law. It is not, unless it is passed by both houses of the state legislature and signed by the governor. The governor can't just sit there and say, hey, close that business, that kind of thing. People are hurting. And then next thing you know, we've got inflation right on its heels. Okay, so the business of the county commission cannot be to tax and spend. And that's what's going on. We cannot have that. What we've got to do is lower the taxes as much as we possibly can and save, and we've got to get that money back in you guys' pockets so that there's a way that you guys climb yourselves up. A very, very rich guy told me one time, and I got to meet him, he said there's only one way to deal with inflation, and that's to out-earn it. Okay, so where's the jobs in Sheridan County right now to out-earn inflation that's happening right now? Where are they? There are none. We're developing a civilization here in this county of servitude, basically. That's what, yeah, everybody says, the county commissioners right now will say, well, look, help wanted signs all over the place. Yeah, but can you raise a family on those help wanted signs, the jobs that they're posting in? No. Can you afford to keep your house? That's another part that kind of distincts me away from just about everybody else. Is I'm all about family, and I'm all about family housing. And a family house is a house, a single family dwelling with a yard where kids can play and don't have to be sitting in, someplace on a Nintendo. They can be outside and they can be doing that. So why is the emphasis so far away from that? It's because just about all of the larger apartment buildings and stuff like that are government funded. They're subsidized. So builders that are building houses can't compete with that. So that's why you're going to see a heck of a lot more apartments, and that's why you're going to see a heck of a lot more families getting raised in apartment buildings rather than houses, is because contractors cannot compete when there's money just being thrown out by the federal government. Those are the issues. Those are the reasons. Those are the things that hit me right here in the heart. And the worst one was when they told me that my house was worth about 4 times what I bought it for now. And it's called neighborhood tax. And I was like everybody else. They had to raise my house payments just for my escrow. And I'm going, you gotta be kidding me. There is a way to reverse that. Ollie mentioned it. There is a way to reverse that. County commissioners, I was at another forum, and I felt like the Lone Ranger at that one, but I'm not kidding you. It was the Sheridan County Board of Realtors. And the Sheridan County Board of Realtors asked that question, what are you going to do about taxes? County Commissioner says, we'll look at a cap on property tax. That's what they said. We'll look at a cap on it. They didn't say, I need to have a cap on it. And the sheriff, or the retiring sheriff, he said the same thing. He's running for county commissioner, he said the same thing. Yeah, I would be in favor of looking at a cap of the tax, of property tax. It doesn't do us any good now. That doesn't do, it does not drop my payment back down to where it's $150 less than it was 6 months ago, right? But it doesn't any of you guys. Acquisition value tax will. You bet it will. What you pay for a piece of property is what you should be taxed on, not your neighbor's mansion. That's, and I got up and I told them, I said, acquisition tax, and I kind of got a lot of people looking, what's that? Half of them didn't know what I was talking about, the other half of them didn't want to hear it. But it's true, and we need to do something about that, Violation of constitutional rights, and I see this all the time. And I don't see the county commission, the sheriff's department, I don't see them sticking up for constitutional rights. We need change in all of that. We really do. The individual's constitutional rights are paramount. And anyway, so that's a little bit, that's a lot about what I, sorry. Jason?
Thank you.
Some of the issues for the other kids.
Yeah, now I don't have anything to say. I want to appreciate you guys all for having us up here, and I was with Mr. Arzi here at that real estate board luncheon, and it might have been like 25 degrees cooler in there, but it feels a lot more comfortable in here. So I felt like, as he did there, not necessarily fish out of water, but I just feel like I couldn't breathe because I was around a bunch of vultures that were ready to pounce. And that's not why I want to become, county commissioner. I ran 4 years ago on a lot of the issues, obviously bigger now in the last 4 years of these tax problems, tax issues that, I'm a single father of 2. I I share those kind of same tax burdens as maybe a retired person would be, or a single mother to whatever. So that's got to be stopped, and as far as the mills and cap, you know, we don't need to be paying money on futures. You know, a lot of people are in their golden years are kind of married to that house, and maybe they don't have a big retirement, and part of that house is basically their retirement, and they're paying taxes on the future that they give away. And so I think that goes back to a lot of things, affordable housing, where, you know, we do need to create affordable housing. And I've been working on a solution that's been kind of a real important thing for me. And it's almost 50 years, I suppose. I'm 50 years old, but my dad's been a forever builder, and, you know, I've got 50 years in that field. Former real estate agent, chaired the planning commission for 8 years, appointed by then Dave Kinski. You know, I've always been pretty involved, and, you know, when I see the problems, you know, as these guys have spoke about, I also, you know, the lack of ethics. And to me, you know, I've been in part of $3 million infrastructure projects that, you know, they don't have any experience. You know, we can talk about their common sense approach, which is really is a good starting point, but when you have no experience in that issue, in whatever comes up, common sense is going to get you nowhere, except for, like you said, rubber stamping it, because I don't know what to say, because I don't know. So that to me is a problem. And I agree with Mike too. I think we need to, 3 of them need to be out, you know, and they're grooming our retired sheriff to take that position, and you know, they're likable guys. But I look at the work, the action. What are they really doing? You know, and at that real estate board, at a meeting, I kind of was able to go first. We were able to go first, so I talked about, you know, all these boards that they're on, and you know, frankly, to me, half of them are conflict of interest, and half of them are unethical. But that's what they're going to go on. I'm on all these. Okay, well, let's talk about what we're doing. And I had this opportunity to go first, so I wanted to call out, you know, the county did this affordable housing thing out, if you go out towards, Woodland Park. You know, and they basically had this, you know, all these lots, no developer could take more than 2 lots, and you had to keep it under 250, and you've got a $15,000 grant to pay for some of those things to do affordable housing. Which is sad, because that concept that they tried wouldn't have worked 25 years ago. So quickly into it, they realized they really need to somehow get out of it, right? So then we have, you know, when I brought this up, which is, I believe, our worst developer in town, Emmanuel Fall, into, well, I imported this lumber, so I think I could help you out. Okay, give him all the lots, and consider the $15,000 grant, and he just builds for profit. You know, we talked about doing infrastructure. You know, we've got this subdivision, Bobcat Run, that's out there south of town, where the developer would like, of course, sewer, because it makes the property more valuable. He's doing 5-acre subdivision, you know, 5-acre ranchettes, so he doesn't need it, but it would be behoove of the county commissioners to have them put that sewer through these three properties, so then eventually we can develop past that. Instead of saying, oh, no problem, but now that you're done, you can go back to the city and apply for a grant, and now us taxpayers can pay for it, you know? They're working for the developers, and I see it every day. But sometimes it's, as I said too, it's, if you don't have the experience, sometimes maybe you just don't know what you're doing. And I think a lot of that time too, they're depending on what somebody puts in front of them and say, well, this is pretty good, just, you know, go for it. You know, I think there's a solution for affordable housing, and it has to go vertical, and there's no comparables. You know, we can condoize a better quality unit to make it energy efficient, and if you did a mix of 3 bedrooms, 2 bedroom, 1 bedroom, and then you went up 3 stories and parked under the garage, I know I've done the numbers. We can do affordable housing under $200,000. The problem is, in the market that we're living in today, you know, we're advertising that Sheridan is this great place in California. You know, we don't, you know, this is a wonderful place to live and raise a family. We don't need to be marketing, this town, because with this whole COVID pandemic thing, 25 million people around the country that realize they can live anywhere, and this is a great place with great tax benefits. We need to take care of the people that are here and stop doing 5-acre subdivisions. And, we can eventually do a mobile home park that's quality, that has the infrastructure, and you actually own the property below that, so then the bank can finance something like that for 30 years. I think that's there's just different options out there to do these things. In my mind, it's not a priority, so I believe that the people of Sheridan County, their priority, the taxes, the affordable housing, we're in dire need of, he started talking, Brian did, and it started to get my mind rolling of, a big problem in this world today, but, we got to start in our neighborhood, and we do need to change. We need to change of, constitutional candidates, and, I'm blessed to have these guys around me. I got to get to know them over the last, couple of months and a half now, and, they're great people. I think we all need to be in there for the sake of the county. So I guess, more about me. This community has been pretty special for me. I'm president of a really good nonprofit. I don't like to talk about it because, I think we're all called to serve. We do things because people need help. And for me, service is important. There's been a lot of things going in my life, and when I put God at the foremost of things, and put Him first, and I like to tell people. I met a guy one time working at the YMCA. He was a janitor, and I get all these grumpy people. They're like, "We need you to do this. We need you to do that." And I was like, "Yeah, no problem." And I was like, one day I said, how do you handle? That person is really rude. Well, I don't work for that person. I said, what do you mean? Well, the YMCA may give me a paycheck, but I work for God. And I was like, that pretty much nailed it on the head for me. Some people don't have that solution, in their life. So you gotta have some compassion to it. But I still gotta try to guide them, even though it could be frustrating some days. But some things we have to let go. But we have to fight for what we believe in and what we know is right for the community, and work it together. So, I'm pretty happy to be up here with you guys. And, thanks for having me tonight. More questions? I guess that's enough for now.
Okay, I'll go first. I know.
Okay. I was thinking it might be a good idea for the questions to be.
We've never done this.
I know, we haven't done this yet.
Only changing things.
Goodness sakes, it's gonna make us all formal or something.
It's just on the audio. Is there a podium?
I know. Can I get something to hold on to? No. Okay, I'm gonna give this question to Holly specifically, just because you mentioned it. I was looking in preparation for tonight at the minutes. They say meeting start time, who attended, meeting end time. Once in a while, there was a 2-sentence statement. Those aren't minutes. And a couple of you mentioned the 9 o'clock Tuesdays, and then there's a statute. How do you work around that? Obviously, you can change how the meetings are recorded and those kinds of things, but can you just speak to how you see that working differently and how you might change that?
Well, first of all, the change, the time that they have right now, 9 a.m. on Tuesday, it is a statutory requirement. So I think the first thing that we have to do is we have to go to the legislature and we have to say, we need a change in this because we want this to be, city council meetings are at 7 o'clock on a Monday evening. Andy goes to those every Monday. Would you be able to go to a county commissioners meeting at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday every week? Most of you wouldn't. So I think that's the first thing that we have to do. Second thing, of course, is getting some reporting equipment in there. We live in an age of social media where we can live stream anything. You're live streaming right now. I pointed over here because that's where it was, but you moved it, Andy, thank you. Did it to get a better picture, I know. So, anyway, I see that as the second thing that's very important. The third thing is we need to talk to the clerk because you're right. I've looked at those meeting minutes and it says very, very, very little. I've taken minutes before for different organizations, and I will tell you, I put in there more than just motion was made, second, vote passed. It needs to talk about discussion. It needs to bring up, what did the public say? Were there statements from the public? You talked about bringing a piece of paper to the county commissioners. Why is that not attached to the meeting minutes? Why do we ignore those things? So I think those are 3 big steps that we can do, if elected, if there's enough of us elected, that we need to do right off the bat. Even if one of us is elected, I think we need to push hard for the other ones and call it out for what it is, which is not being transparent.
Pass it along for someone else. You got a question?
Okay.
Brian, this is for you. You had mentioned turning the hearts of the people. And you had referenced it in a negative way, that they had been turned away. If you were elected as commissioner, how would you seek to turn the hearts of the people back?
Well, if I was going to tell you I was going to go in there and do it, I'd be a fool, because you're going to get in there for 4 years, you're going to be out of your head. Because you're going to have a lot of people mad at you. One thing is you got to be civil, and you have to be able to live an example of what your hope and peace is in life. It's interesting. Like I said, I had a rough day today. Things didn't go right. I have no notes. I came from church. I worked in a pickup. My wife's car, not my car's wife. My wife's car broke down. It probably still is. But yeah. Yes. Here's one of these verses I really like, and this is one of those verses that is the Lord has given me in my life. I'm a hothead, or I used to. John 14:27. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. What we have in our government today is they're trying to give us the peace that they see. That's why I said earlier about the Constitution. We need to go back and honor it. We're going to have the freedom that is from it, the gratefulness of where it comes from. It comes from God. So we have to plant those seeds of what really is the foundation of our country. The foundation of our country is the Bible. That's all there is to it. And then there's going to have to be some battles about, everyone talked about fiscal responsibility. There's going to have to be some challenges of whether or not we really want to obey the Constitution. People talk all the time about it being your interpretation, right? I would say that this is probably a pretty friendly environment to speak this way. I would say everyone here thinks we're in trouble. And if it keeps going the way it is, and I live long enough, Lord willing, I don't, we'll be going through bloodshed again. And then one of us here, if we're involved with that, will rise up and they'll write down on a piece of paper things they want to do for the future so it does not happen again. Correct? That's really all that Constitution is. There were some men that fought for our freedom. And they wrote down on a piece of paper trying to limit what people can do to us so we can live free and have that successful life and leave it to our children, our posterity. So, in this... Yes. I'm really a weird person about the different things that I study. Don't ask me why. Article 1 I like. The rest of this, but Article 1 I really do enjoy. The end of Article 1, you see, after Wyoming gives its preamble, Section 37, it says that the supreme law of the land is the Constitution of the United States. And that's a beautiful Constitution. And that's the supreme law of the land. And then for us in our state, Section 19 says appropriations for sectarian or religious societies or institutions prohibited. No money of the state shall ever, not once in a while, not maybe next time, not maybe if we get extra money. It says no money of the state shall ever be given or appropriated to any sectarian or religious society or institution. Now I don't want to go very far into sectarian or institution because I'll have a lot of people mad at me. And they'll leave that up and they'll say, well, that's how you interpret it. Well, let me show you something we all interpret correctly. Religious society. Seems like everybody knows what that is. How come we don't know what the other two are? How come we can all discern what a religious society is, but not the other two? And don't get me wrong, I go to church quite often. I read my Bible daily. I believe it's the bread of life. But I also don't want a church state. That's how we got into this country. But we need to have the freedom to have that as the pinnacle of our lives. We also need to understand what the other two are. The reason why those guys put that in there after that fight was is they know that when you have sectarians, they're going to rise up like the church. The church state. The first guy probably is decent. Then the second guy, what happens? Or his son. Just read about Solomon. Rehoboam had a lot of problems. Probably worked pretty good under David. Got a little worse under Solomon. Under Rehoboam, a lot worse. And under Rehoboam, what was his greatest sin? That he prepared not his heart to seek God. That was Rehoboam's greatest sin. So if we have these other ones, these sectarians and these institutions, these were warnings by our founding fathers that these will rise up just like the church. I guess what I'm leaving you with is this. How can we all know and understand what a religious society is, but we don't know what the other two are? And the other two are running us right now. They're running us completely. So to your question, we have to plant seeds of whether or not we want to obey the Constitution. This is not a democracy, it never was. Democracy just makes mob rule. This was a constitutional republic, then represented the book, the paper. And then we did what we could if we had to alter somewhere or add to it for your freedoms. A nation is only as strong as its family is. And you look at where we're at right now. Jason talks about growing up and everything. Well, we've had Watts projects in the past. What did that bring us to? Bring us to slums and crime. Freedom takes us out of that. You put families and you pack them together. The mothers and dads are strapped for money. Who's raising the kids and where are the kids at? They're all around. You just create another problem. And the social problems off that down the road will far exceed the freedom of letting people have their own place. Around here, you have to have 80 acres to stay out of subdivision. Subdivisions hinder how you can raise your children and families, which you think you see is necessary to raise them. And they talk about responsible development. And then they tell we have to have responsible development, and yet we need to save our farmland, because someday we might not eat. We might need to eat. Well, I like food like the rest of everybody else. I'm getting fat. I need to have less. But the same token, when you're taking 80 acres for one guy and you're destroying the farmland like that, what's responsible with that? You're taking land out of production at 80 acres, so you're forcing people to buy 80 acres. And who can buy 80 acres? How many of you in here can buy 80 acres to do it? I'm lucky I can buy 3 square feet. Once again, back to our posterity. Every job in this life is a dead-end job. There's only one that isn't. We've taken families and we've destroyed them. We've told women they have to add up to men. And the only job that lasts is motherhood. And then men need to step up and be with the wives. Parenthood is all you leave behind. And for our children and grandchildren, and hopefully we all have that, we need the freedom. We need the freedom. We need to keep them out of debt, as low a cost of living as possible, so they're not strapped and fighting about money. That's the #1 killer in America. Once again, your country is only as strong as your family is. you destroy the family, you don't have anything. Thank you.
I don't know if this is allowed, but can I add to that?
Yeah.
Okay, break the rules here. I'll pass the mic down to you guys after I'm done. When you asked that question, I've been reading the Wyoming State Constitution. I don't have written notes, I have dog ears, which tell me where things are at. And I found it interesting because I read this today. And this is Article 7, Section 20 of the Wyoming Constitution. Duty of legislature to protect and promote health and morality of people. As the health and morality of the people are essential to their well-being and to the peace and permanence of the state, it shall be the duty of the legislature to protect and promote these vital interests by such measures for the encouragement of temperance and virtue, and such restrictions upon vice and immorality of every sort, as are deemed necessary to the public welfare. We don't just have a responsibility, we have a duty, according to this document. And I think we need to take it seriously, just like you were saying, Miss Karen. And I think we lean back on this and
I took it.
I beat you to it.
you didn't raise your hand.
No, you have to raise your body. Okay, so this, I did promise what I believe would be a friendly audience. I didn't necessarily promise easy questions. So this is one that I have had posed to me when I met with a city employee who was telling me their opinion about whether or not I should be in favor of raising or lowering taxes. And their point was that if we scrub off 1 mil, it's only going to be a little bit of money for each household. But each household put together could equal multiple millions for the government that they can use to do their projects. So my question is what would you say to the argument that it's just a little bit for each person, but for the collective, it's for the greater good, and that's what we should go for?
Are you asking that of each person?
I'm going to send it over to you two guys because you haven't talked a lot.
We're going to try to keep you guys to 5 minutes each.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
I would disagree with that city employee. I mean, in principle, yeah, you know, you get a little bit from everybody, okay? And then you get a big pot. And that's what they're happy about. They got this pot of gold sitting here, right? But what they don't understand is that these projects that they're putting on, they, you know, maybe they hired 15 or 20 construction workers and they have a construction company in there and they pay like the Brook Street thing, that's $1.2 million. Okay, so those guys get a salary for a while from that money, and that doesn't, you know, equate to how much money is going back into the economy. It's not that much. It's really, you know, you're not getting bang for your buck. You're not getting that dollar going back into Sheridan County economy off of a project like that. You get a little bit, not much, but that little bit that everybody is going to have in their pocket, it's going to help them buy another gallon of gas. You know, that's, and that dollar, you know, that's from everybody. And so, yeah, even though it looks like it's just a little bit and it's just getting spread out and then it's just a teensy weensy little thing, it's not really. What it's going to do is it's going to boost our share of the economy. People are going to have a little bit more money in their pockets so that they can actually, you know, buy a little something more. Maybe we won't be in such, you know, the inflation causes recession, and that's what we're going to start seeing, and we already have. I don't know about you guys, but I look a lot as to whether or not I'm going to buy something or not. And when you're in the haying business, man, it just kills you because everything's doubled. And so, can I afford to do that, you know, and that kind of thing. So that little tax money back in my pocket, it's going to help me. And so I would disagree that, yeah, we just give a little bit and then we'll add it all up. That's what you do with a savings account. You know, not people's tax money.
I'd agree with Michael. You know, the dollar turns 7 times. You put it back into people's hands, you know, it does its work. And especially, you know, as we look at what the commissioners have been doing or not doing, they're spending our taxpayer money just terribly, you know, with things that don't work, where they do spend the taxpayer money and they could have a developer pay for things. I mean, that's just unethical. So we're, I mean, way off on left field with, you know, we give them more money, they're just gonna spend it more foolishly until you get somebody in there that, you know, really knows how to look at numbers, obviously, and knows a little bit about business. You know, our county government does have to be run like a business. You know, there's projects, you know, with this hillside and things like that, I'd rather put things off, you know, for a rainy day where we have saved enough money to, and looked at it long enough to say, is this going to be for the good of the community and the good of this county? Because a lot of these things, these commissioners push through so fast with the meeting schedule and all these different things that make it able for them to kind of throw something under the rug. You know, we could look at that with our solar company that's supposed to be moving here up by the airport. You know, there was no due diligence in looking after that solar company, and frankly, you know, I hope they don't come here. We don't need it. And I could see us needing some coal pretty soon with the way things are going in this world. And you know, to me, I hope it's not dead. You know, that was the lifeblood of this community. And it's not solar power paid by, you know, government. So there's things that are not done correctly because of, again, I'll go right back to this lack of knowledge, or lack of ethics. I don't know, because I can't get a straight answer. So, thank you.
So, I'm a farmer, or would like to be anyways, and so what would you do, asking specifically Mr. Chef, I hope that's how you say your last name.
Like 2 cooks in the kitchen, like chef salad.
Okay, and Ms. Jennings, what would you do to protect the farming land and also to make it affordable for future farmers like me? And y'all can answer if you'd like, but I think I know where you two stand in that matter. So.
Okay, just to clarify, are you talking about further development with agricultural?
What would you do to save the farming land and to make it more affordable for farmers now and for future generations?
Well, that's a difficult answer because I'm one of those individuals who believes that the government really should not be involved in very many things. You know, the ability of an individual to say, I'm going to sell my ranch land or I'm going to sell my agricultural land because I want to make money, and then they're going to turn it into a development. Do I have the right to say to that farmer or rancher, no, you can't do that? But there is the other side of that, which says we need to make sure that we do have the ability to produce things that are needed, you know, crops, and I don't think we really have many, you know, like textile, any of those things, but, you know, both of those are important. But I think for me, I will always lean towards private property rights and the ability of the landowner to make the decision that they need to make, or want to make.
Can I get that for a second?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I admire you because we need more young men like you out there. Agriculture is super important to us. You know, I wish I could quit my job and actually build a bunch of greenhouses and do self-sustainable vegetables throughout the whole year, because it doesn't take that much water and it doesn't take that much energy if you build it right. And you know, I think as we're around our rivers and things like that, you got Rooted in Wyoming, you got a lot of these, you know, groups that it's a passion and it's their mission, and I often see a lot of things done that need to be done where if we can get out of our own group, because there's 100 nonprofits around town, and there's not only one that's thinking the way you are with the greenhouses. There's 5 of them. There's 6 of them, 7 of them. So if we can get all those groups together to work on that common goal, I'd like to see, where normative services out there, I know that Rooted in Wyoming is going to take some space out there. I'd love to see a bunch of greenhouses out there, and to actually get more youth to go out there and get not just excited about it, but fall in love with it and understand that this is a major desire to Sheridan County as we go forward. So it's going to take us and the youth together, working with different organizations to promote that stuff, which is vital, and to help grow it. So that's where I'm at.
You ever watch TV? You ever watch TV? Green Acres, you ever watch Green Acres?
Yeah.
Oliver had his right there in his apartment, his farm. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what they're promoting. First off, we're going to have to sit back and see what the role of government is supposed to be in our lives. That goes back to freedom. We've turned the government over to many things. I will tell you that I grew up in farm country. I'm ashamed to say. I wanted to let my feet hang instead, but I did. And I know a little bit about it. My grandpa had a farm, and it's getting sold on August 4th. And it's heartbreaking. I was really hoping that somebody in the family would be able to raise a family and farm it. And it's going to end up getting sold, and it's going to be picked up by, and it's only 200 acres, 160 acres. It's going to get picked up by a big corporation farm. You're not going to be able to stop that because the county commission can't do anything about it. The federal government is subsidizing all of this so much that corporation farms can make subsidies work, the small guy can't. I was in pick acres when I was a kid. The small farmers that I helped, they wouldn't even get involved unless they had 5 or 10 or 15 acres that were swampland that could turn in there because they could make more money for a family by farming the whole thing. And there was a lot of, it was just a waste is really what it was. And so that supports corporation farms. Once again, we need to look at what we think the role of government should be in our lives. What Jason and Holly are talking about having greenhouses, yeah, you're probably going to have to go to the Oliver Wendell Douglas thing for a while until this falls apart a little bit and the government gets out of something. Put you in there, or the other option is we make you an indentured servant. Maybe we'll put you to about 15 different farmers, and one of the guys likes you and he helps you get in. Because all the young people I was around that grew up with me, that's actually how they got to farming. They either had a relative in it, or they worked for a guy that helped them along. And it's a tough game, especially out here. But as a county commissioner, I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. And I want that lifestyle, because there's nothing better than a family working together on a farm. We need to study what role of government is. Andy's question there about the government, we need to figure out, can I say this word? Probably shouldn't. That's communism. When you pool your money together, there's no question, that's their thought process. 1 penny to me is probably, well, most people won't pick it up. I'm pretty cheap, I still pick them up. I probably got pennies yet in my pocket. But 1 penny to most people is nothing, but if you pool it together, then you have a lot. And then you can buy what the people think they want. And pretty soon the government starts taking over those mindsets. And really, let's think about it. I don't want to beat on insurance too much, but do you think insurance has helped our society, or do you think it's made it worse? Insurance has raised the cost of everything. And so when we pool our monies together, and we have that mindset, our founding fathers said our government's supposed to be as small as possible. So when we keep saying, oh, if we just add this together, the government just grows. And if your mindset is that you think government's the answer, you want to grow government, I'm not your person. But I think we need to shrink it back. When we put the freedom back in the people, each family knows better what they need in their life than the government does. And that's where the best decisions are made. That's what I would promote. As far as you want to be a farmer, that's a tough road to go.
We're grateful.
Okay, I'll give you a little bit of heads up about what's going on in my life right now. I was never a hobby farmer. I grew up helping all my uncles every summer. I'd come up here And where I actually went to school, I went all the way through agriculture and FFA. Actually, I didn't quite make a state officer as FFA. I was like one nominated, one out. But anyway, so it's always been in my blood. It's the way it's always been. Later on, after what I was trying to do is chase down enough money by working for as big a wage as I could get, so I could save money, so that I could actually buy my own place and start doing my cows and things like that. But that's why it comes back to the inflation. You got to out earn it, and there was never enough money put away until later in life when I finally developed my roots. My place I bought, it's just small, but what I do is I lease a lot of land. I lease hay, and then I got into contract hand because the neighbor across the road from the place I was actually leasing for my animals, my horses and cows, I put up hay on it. And he goes, well, you mind cutting mine, And so then that developed and got bigger and bigger. And yeah, it's a headache. And sometimes you work 18, 19 hours a day at haying and stuff. But I can see light at the end of the tunnel about all this stuff. See, my cows don't cost me anything to feed all winter long because I hay on shares, and a lot of that hay comes home. So that's kind of how I do it. Now, as far as the county commissioner is concerned and what they can do, the zoning is an issue that can be, they change zoning all the time. As far as I'm concerned, being a builder, I know that the best place to build a house is on a pretty rocky hill because the foundation is solid. It's not down in alluvial creek bottom where there's a lot of good hay to cut, but that's what we see going on because that's what people want to, that's what they want to buy, okay? And I don't begrudge them that. I think that's a beautiful thing for them to have a dream and to have that alluvial valley, if that's what they want. But at the same time, you're taking agricultural land and you're using it for domestic use when it could actually be producing a crop. And eventually, we're going to get to the point, and probably will start showing up in your lifetime. Not so much now, although there are some people talking about it, is we're losing so much cropland now that are we going to be able to feed the whole masses of people and stuff? And that's when you're going to see some more, I want to say, socialist stuff coming up, that they're going to decide where you can live and where you can't live and where this is agriculture and stuff like that. I think governments, where the county commission would come in, would be to promote agricultural training, schools, get behind the FFA. This thing really kind of blew me apart because I guess I got away from my roots there, from going through high school and that. But there's a huge decline in FFA chapters, and agriculture is not taught in all of the schools, even as an elective. Boy, when I went to school, if you didn't take ag, there was something wrong with it. Ag or agribusiness, ag mechanics, farm, something related to agriculture. But now, they don't even offer those classes anymore. I think that, and we do control the funding for the school board. We do control, the county commissioner do. So I think that there should be some push there to get people to really looking back into their actual roots and what really does make where your food comes from, and how to produce it, knowledge of it. Yeah, it's getting to be really lost. If it's not handed down by the family, you're not learning it. You're not learning it in school. So that's where I'm from.
Holly, you're the only one that hasn't spoken to Andy's question about the tax thing. Do you want to speak to that?
I'd actually love to. Before I do that, I did want to tack on one other thing about the agriculture. There has been a bill that's been pushed I believe the last 2 years, maybe the last 3, to change the kind of the definition of agricultural land. I think that is one of them that we really, as county commissioners, we don't decide that. That is the legislature that decides that. But that is another thing that we can push back on and say, no, you know, you don't need to try and get more taxes out of agricultural land. So as far as the Andy's question, I actually had 2 things to that. The first of which is I was at a city council meeting, I believe that was 6 or 8 months ago. It could be longer. Time sure does fly. Where they were talking about increasing the sewer and the water rates. And it was brought up, it's just going to be 50 cents or 60 cents or 70 cents. It's not that much. It's not a big deal. At the time I thought, that's what you always say. I see it all the time. I went home and I live in a mobile home park. And the owners of my mobile home park raised my bill $50, the first raise. $50 because of that $3 to $4 raise in the sewer and the water trash. Then again, it was just raised another $50 because of inflation. So that small amount of money, it's just a little bit, turned into an additional $100 that now I won't be putting back into the community. I won't go out to dinner and support a local resident. I won't be able to go and go to different events. Again, $100 is $100. Some may say that's not a big deal, but when you take 100, I live up in West Park, that's 250 some mobile homes. It's a lot of money that will no longer be flowing into the community. And secondly, I have watched the penny tax. I've watched it go up, and every year it gets brought back. And then I've watched what they've done with the penny tax. Unconstitutionally picking winners and losers. They've done it with that money every time. So I have to say that I'm against that. We fought the Revolutionary War against taxes on multiple little things, you know, the Stamp Act, the T-tax, all these different things that one at a time you would think are not that big deal. But when you put them all together, it is bleeding the citizen dry. And that's not the place that we should be at.
Okay. Make him sweat.
I don't want him to ask any questions. Just kidding.
Look, she passed that off right away.
So my question is for all 4 of you. Now, maybe we'll start on the other side here. So Wyoming has money. We have more than $25 billion in savings. We're the richest state in the nation, by far. Recently, I believe it was last year, we doubled the amount that schools were able to carry in reserves. Doubled it. Actually, a little more than. So counties are allowed to carry reserves. About 4 years ago, Johnson County could have not taken a single penny in tax for 4.5 years and still covered all of their expenses if they kept their expenses at the same rate. I don't know if you guys know where that's at for Sheridan County. It wasn't near as bad. It wasn't more than 4.5 years. But personally, each of you as a candidate, and don't have to go into it in great detail, what level of reserves are you comfortable with? Do you feel like the state should allow you the reserves in Sheridan County to go up? Because the current commissioners are stating, you know, we need to be able to deal with inflation and not raise your taxes, although we see property taxes already going crazy. So I can tell you the current crew wants to see those reserves go up. Can you address, each of you, briefly, where you're at on reserves?
We can't do it briefly.
5 minutes each. Here you go.
I'm just going to go quick, and you know, I'm going back to, yeah, it'd be nice to have these reserves, but you know, I look at their track record of how they're spending the money, and you know, I have a problem with that until we start, you know, having that fiduciary responsibility and actually doing the right thing with your tax dollar. I'd be afraid to, currently in that commission, the way it sits, I'd be afraid to put any more money in their, in their hands. Because they're not doing, the right things with it. And again, I think it's, based on knowledge, and it might be, somebody else thinks something's a little bit more important than the people do. So let's try to get that done. And I guess it goes back to ethics. And, I don't, when there's not good ethics and not good, ability to spend that money, I don't like to give them any more, because I think they're, it's like, they're just going to spend it because it's there. I'd like to see it go back to the people, at some point when we have this, because after this last 2 years of, jacking up these taxes and coming there's going to be a little of deciding what are we going to do with this, and that's got to be an important thing that we deliver over, rather than trying to come up with a harebrained idea that they want to push through in one meeting, just to spend the money. So there could be a lot of meetings about that. What's most needed. But I'd like to see some. Again, go back to this affordable housing plans for something that. But I think it has to be. It can't just be government. A lot of things that I just see government's hands in, they don't go well. And that's just the pattern of it. I think it's going to take community and collaboration with different things that we want to see happen as a community, and not get okay, you county commissioners, you figure it out. Because it just comes back to it, it seems good. Well, as you work for the people and reach out and are connected with the community, we're going to together know where our money needs to go and where it needs to be spent. So yeah, I'd like to put a hold on there until we get some better folks in there, and hopefully we can make that happen.
I call it a slush fund, I guess, but I don't think there's much place for it. I really think that the key right now is they're saying on their side, they're saying, we need this extra money in here because we don't know where inflation is going to take us, and we might have to dip into this to take care of inflation. But I think that what you need to do with your budget is to find out what is really important to the people and use your money miserly, spend wisely, and save what you have of your budget and make sure that it covers everything, but not raise taxes or get more of a slush fund in there. I mean, I'd almost be kind of cool to see the county commissioners all out there with checkbooks writing checks back to the people who need it for their monthly expenses. If they got that kind of money that in reserve, why not do the right thing with it and give it back to the constituents or something like that? I don't really think, I think it's mismanagement. It's tax and spend. That's their motto, tax and spend. And I think that taxes need to be as low as they possibly can be, and I think you need to curtail your spending on your projects, because if you're in an inflationary and soon to be a recessionary scenario with the economy, they tell us to tighten our belts. I think you should be tightening your belt doubly so as a public figure. If you're balancing a checkbook for the county, you better be tightening your belt better than you do at home.
Well, I'm a Bible guy, so I try to find my answers there. Solomon says in chapter 10, a feast is made for laughter, wine maketh merry, the money answereth all things. Well, I guess I think that's how they figure. They get all their answers from money. And then I'm going to break some of his word here. He says, curse not the king, no, not in thy thought. Curse not the rich man in his bedchamber, for a bird of the air shall carry the voice. And that which hath wings shall tell the matter. So I'm probably not going to do myself any good here. But personally, I see this as, if we have that much tax left over, we must be taxing too much. Is that right? So I agree with Mike. If we have that much, we should be giving some back to the people. That'd be kind of a nice thing. On the other side of that is, if we're going to have reserves, and I'm not a budget guy, but I will tell you, if you look at the capital facilities tax, they took in $20,000 interest. I'm not sure if you know what the interest rates are, but you have to have a lot of money in reserve to take in $20,000 right now. So they're trying to figure out ways to blow the money. I'm going to be a racist when I say this now, but I don't think 5 people up front should tell you that you have to help fund $10,000 for the powwow. If you personally want to fund the powwow for a few dollars, you should do it. Our government shouldn't be doing that, and they did put $10,000 in the powwow. And I'd mention other things, but then I'd be a business hater and a child hater, and I got 8 kids, and I don't want my kids to think that. They're going to tell you about all the boards they're on. They must have a lot of padding, because they don't get anything done. They should take the padding off so they get a few slivers every now and then, get up and do something. If we're going to have a reserve, then it should be earmarked for at least something worthwhile for down the road, you know. And I'm not even a proponent of this. But if they're going to have it, at least use it worthwhile. Dig 10 feet of water line every now and then, so at least you got water going somewhere, a sewage line, so they're really serious about their low-income housing projects, because they're not doing anything. They're sitting on boards with a lot of padding and wasting a lot of money. And so no, I'm not very much for reserves. If they are going to have them, it ought to be earmarked for something useful down the road. The only thing I can figure is infrastructure down the road. Maybe where Mike was talking, where they need a bridge somewhere. If you don't have the money right away, you can't do it right away, instead of going out and taxing people right away, wait until you can pay for it and have the reserve there and do it. I can't see that. The problem with it is, I don't think the county commission, well, we run this like the telephone company. We think this is friends and family. I mean, if you want Verizon, go for Verizon, but the county commission is not supposed to be friends and family. This is supposed to be to govern and be responsible for everyone. Justice, not this legal system stuff that we have going on. So if we're going to have reserves, in my mind, the only way we could have them is they got to be earmarked. Mark talks about $25 billion. Well, that don't sound like very much. That's just 25, right? I've been preaching this for a long time, trying to stir people's hearts and minds about eternity. My children are bored listening to me. Hey, how did I get through the concept of what a billion is. A billion seconds is 31.71 years. That's a pretty good point. And so we should look through our budgets and see how much we're spending on that. Just think of having 25 of those. Now, we don't have any control of the federal government, but just to give you an example, if we can't clean things up here, then we better quit complaining about the federal government. And a trillion seconds is 31,710 years. Look what they're spending. Our inflation right now, we took some of that government money. We spent it here. So, unless you like $5 a gallon gas, I guess it's a good thing. Me, I don't like it. So we need to sit back and figure out what we expect for freedom, what the role of government is. Me personally, it needs to shrink. If we're going to have reserves, then it's got to be earmarked for something useful. Like I said, maybe someday if we grow, and the way they're doing things like Jason said, then we have to have an earmark for maybe bigger sewage ponds for a growing community. Water lines for a second. We're going to have water problems down the road. You can't have the growth we have and a couple of crisps we have and not have water problems down the road. We're going to earmark, and we're going to have reserves. We better earmark it for that. Because I'll tell you what's going to happen. We'll spend all the money, and then we'll be up against the wall, and then everyone's going to get pounded, and especially the older people. I mean, I said before I felt sorry for some of the older people. The first thought that came to mind was some of these taxes. I did run for county commission 2 years ago. I came to the door of this couple, and I can bring it to their house. And I was dying of heat exhaustion. It was like 99 degrees, and I was sweating. And I was sweating profusely. And they opened the door of their house, and the heat that came out of their house about killed me. And it broke my heart, because I knew the heat didn't bother them. Because I watched older people many times, they're cold a lot. And they looked at me and they said, we're going to vote for you, just because we can't pay more taxes. I looked at them and I said, I'm sorry. I'm glad you're gonna vote for it, but it ain't gonna stop. It's just gonna be a seed planted. And that's where we're at. That we should be spending that money. We shouldn't have all that laying around unless it's earmarked for something useful down the road. We need to really look at what we're doing, especially for the older people in these houses, with the real estate taxes going on. Thank you.
So I was writing things down because I knew I was going to speak after Brian and I didn't want to forget what I was going to say. Just joking. So I actually want to call a reserve account what it is. It's a savings account to do what you want. A little bit to pay for some of the things for government. But the way that they get that reserve account is by taking from your future savings account. I don't think it's right for the government to create these reserve accounts of millions of dollars and just use it however they want from your money. And you're not able to have that savings account. What happens, where's your reserve account going to be when something bad happens in your life? It's going to be taxed away. There's a saying that I really like. This is not exactly what it is. I have to look it up and I don't have my phone with me. So, bad times make strong men. Strong men create easy times. Easy times make bad men. Bad men make bad times. It's cyclical. And I think as horrible as it would be, I guess, bad times for the state would force it to look at what's needed and what's not needed. What's the fat and what is the necessary role of government. So.
No debating.
No, I'm not debating, but there's a couple of things that Mark and I crack up about when we talk. And I don't know, you guys going down I-25 or I-90 and you go underneath a series of these huge overhead signs. That's $500,000 right there to watch out for motorcycles. Okay, that's what they cost, $500,000 a piece. Okay, it's like, or very seldom, very seldom do they ever really give you any information that is pertinent to your travel and your trip. Very, very seldom. But they're $500,000. Another kind of a pet peeve of mine, and most people think cowboys don't walk, but if you're in the hay business, you walk a lot because wherever you take your tractor or your swather to, it's 2 miles back to your pickup, so you got to walk to your truck. All right, so this goes back to what I was, I guess what I'm going to take my jab at the walking paths right now, and I think, in my own opinion, it's frivolous spending, and the reason is because they just bite off another $1 million worth of walking path. I don't see that much use. I do understand in talking to some people, yeah, we do use them and stuff like that. But are you getting the bang for your buck? Is that something that is that $1 million you just spent on that walking path? Is that something, or could we alleviate some traffic problems like on Coffeen, or some infrastructure challenges and stuff like that? This all comes back right back at your slush fund, and we got this money, that's tax and spend. We got this $25 billion. Well, let's just throw another walking path out there, and that. I have a solution to that one. Why can't we just make it into a total walking path? The people that use it would then put a quarter in it, the gate would come up, away they go, and after there's a certain amount of money gets put in there it goes right back to your city guy then, isn't it? That was talking about, well, why not? Why not? It's the tax of the willing then, isn't it? Yeah. That's what, Benjamin Franklin, he was quoted as saying, lottery is the tax of the willing. Because, yeah, you buy a lottery ticket, it's not something the government says, give me your money, you're freely handed over. Well, it's the same thing like with toll roads. They actually have toll roads They even thought about doing toll roads in Wyoming, they haven't yet, but they do them around us, you know, Colorado's, yeah, you know. So why not do something along that line rather than tax and spend? That's, you know, to me it's unacceptable. It's totally unacceptable. Just like Ollie said, what about the individuals on challenge or crisis that they might have and they don't have any savings because they just give it away in taxes, they just gave it away to the government. I heard somebody, I can't remember exactly when this was, but it was fairly current. You pay it in some form of tax or another 50 cents out of every dollar. Pretty close. If you get to totaling out all your taxes, that, you know, on everything, yeah, it's around 50 cents out of every dollar. Well, why can't we not take those taxes from people? Why can't we put that money in their pockets? If we're that well off, then we're taxing way too much.
Okay, I'm gonna ask the last question, and then we'll stay and hang out and snack and talk some more off camera, because we got secrets. No, I'm just kidding. Just so that we can talk directly with you guys some more, and there might be people that have questions that they want to ask you personally and not in a public forum, just to give everybody that chance to talk with you. So here's the last question, and I think there's quite a few people that might be interested in this, so I'm hopefully not just asking my own question. The county commissioners have a lot that they're in charge of, oversee, appoint, in all kinds of parts of the county. As everything that might seem small, like the library and the library board, and we see things develop like have happened in Campbell County, where there's problems with books and what they are and where they are in the library, and the county commissioners won't even hold a meeting with public forum to discuss that. And then we look at where we were at here with Dr. Hunter and his appointment, and everybody agreeing to everything he said everywhere in the county, in all areas of government and offices, businesses, and throughout. The county commissioners were contacted by quite a few people in this community about his role and about how they, as well as everybody else, were letting him run the county during COVID. And most of us that I know didn't even get a response. So I'm assuming, since you're all here and you're all running, you would respond. So I don't need you to answer that piece. But how would you handle that part of your responsibility? And you can choose Campbell County's example, or you can choose the example with Dr. Hunter, whatever those, however you want to approach that. Still 5 minutes each, sorry. But you guys have the power to put people in place that we don't get to vote out. We don't get to hold them accountable. You would be the people that we hold accountable. So how would you handle that part of your position?
Who did it first?
30 seconds. This one, I'm ready.
30 seconds. Go.
Okay. So first of all, the first part of that goes back to how many seats that we get for commissioners. If we get one difficult position, still things you can do. If you get 2 or 3, there's a change coming. Number one thing, if you only have 1 seat, or if you have 3, it doesn't matter. You cry from every avenue available, and you say they are not doing what the Constitution says. And I can read you from the Constitution. No, I got it. 38, section 38. The right of healthcare access goes into the legislature may determine reasonable and necessary restrictions on the rights granted under the section to protect the health and general welfare of the people or to accomplish the other purposes set forth in the Wyoming Constitution. The state of Wyoming shall act to preserve these rights from undue governmental infringement. This text right here was twisted. Hunter, Harris, and Governor Gordon all used these things to say we can do what we want. Absolutely not true. We have never, ever, ever quarantined or masked or required vaccines for people who are not sick. I certainly wouldn't require masks or vaccines even for someone who is sick. That shouldn't be mandated. Should we quarantine at home? Yeah, probably. We don't want to be infecting our neighbors. I get that. But that is not the role of government, to take your freedom of healthcare decisions from you. So, like I said, the number one thing that I would be doing if we don't have 3 commissioners is you get on social media, you go to your legislators, you go to everybody and anybody you can. You go to the citizens most of all, and you say this is wrong and we need to stand up against it. And I certainly wouldn't be voting to appoint anyone who holds the view that we should require a vaccine that has not been proven and has some serious effects.
Well, Holly's right. Depends on how many you have on there. 2 years ago, I told everybody it'd be 4-1 and I'd lose, but I would answer the phone calls and I would bring it forward, and I wouldn't obey it. You let them take that, they're going to take everything you have. The county battled with me one time, and I was willing to let it all go. And a preacher man friend of mine came to me and said, "Brian, you better fight." And I said, "I'm going to heaven one day. My job here is to evangelize as many people as I can." He said, "If you don't fight, they'll take everything you got." This is just the beginning. You lay this down, there won't be anything left. That preamble, for your posterity, don't forget those words. If you want your children to have the lifestyle, I've had a wonderful lifestyle out here. My wife and I went camping. My wife and I never had any money. We gather up $20, probably pennies that people don't pick up. Buy gas. Nowadays you only get to Dayton, but we used to get all the way to Shell, open level, back up over to Bighorns, and come home. And that was our entertainment. I mean, that's all we could afford, and we enjoyed it. We let them go far enough. Mike was talking about walking paths. Or maybe they want to put in walking paths to make up to the paths in the mountain that they're closing down that you can't go onto. I don't know. But we certainly know that many of these things we're involved in we don't need. The M&M Center was built. How was that built? There's plenty of money here. We don't need to tax people that aren't using it. And we certainly don't need to take away more rights. I'm an anti-seatbelt guy. My family's been mad at me for years, not my immediate family. And they said because, they call me many things about it. They said you're not willing to be restrained. I'll just leave it at that. I always tell them, you know what, I'm not hurting you when I don't wear my seatbelt. If I am, they have a right to say so. I always obey the speed belt. I've never had that. I don't want to hurt somebody. But me not wearing my seatbelt doesn't. I always tell them, you be careful how much you want them to be able to fine you $150 for that. Look what they were trying to do with the mask thing. So they already got us. I'm against it. You have to decide for yourself where you're at. I'd go back and show you in Proverbs again, one of my verses I really like. The horse is prepared against the day of battle, but safety is of the Lord. We don't get our safety from the government. Their job in the federal government for wars, they're good at that. But we don't get our safety from them. And if you're relying upon the government to save you, I love Ronald Reagan, I've said it before. Your scariest words you'll ever hear is when somebody knocks on the door and says, I'm from the government, I'm here to help. Safety is from the Lord Jesus Christ. And He holds the strings of this. And when you turn that over to the government, you're not far away from where they're going to tell you what you can and cannot believe concerning that also. And so, could I stop it? No. It'd be 4-1. Would I take the phone calls? Absolutely. Would I show the rest of the guys? If they took my phone call, yeah, they probably wouldn't. Freedom's imperative. Give me liberty or give me death. I'll give you my chicken story. So I got chickens, right? I'm almost out of chickens. They like freedom all of a sudden. I have these rap cards that Holly made up for me. And I dropped them. One night they didn't go in, the next night they did. Then I was out walking the streets and I couldn't babysit them. They didn't go in for about 2 or 3 nights. Now there's less chickens. And they only picked off my head in that car because I'm the one that locks them up every night. And now there's only 3 left. I don't have time to catch them. But they like liberty and they're willing to die for it. And that's who I am. I'm willing to die for it. I believe in liberty for everybody here, for your children, your grandchildren, and for mine. And we need justice. We talk about the crime rate and all that stuff that's going on. You can have all the police you want. They can arrest all the guys they want. But if we don't have justice to take care of it after that, what are you doing? Nothing. We need to have justice. It's got to be equal down the board. When we talk about lands and taxes, it's got to be justice. Not that one man has an advantage over another. And so, I probably am not very good at the mandate thing because mandate's not law. In laws, it's really kind of interesting. Take abortion laws. If we pass a law that says abortion is illegal, right away, what does the left say they're going to do? They're going to challenge it. So just because it's a law, does that mean it's right? They're not going to stand by that, right? So a law still has to line up to the Constitution. Those mask mandates and sitting at home and stuff like that, that was never legal in the first place. Never was. And for the government to decide which businesses could be open, which weren't, you be careful when you let that happen. We've already got enough of that when they tell you how you have to build things. I'm back to the type of person that if you don't want to come to my business because you don't like the way it looks up front, don't come. I mean, I probably wouldn't have a very good looking up front, but I'm a cheapskate, you know, and I'd be trying to cut costs as much as possible. So maybe some people wouldn't come. That'd be fine. That'd give me more time to talk to other customers. I'm a blowhard. I could sit there for an hour or two with some of those guys that wouldn't have any customers. That'd be fine with me. And I believe that the mandates are wrong, and I would stand against it. And I would fight against that as hard as I could. If there's 3 on there, makes the decision, like Holly said, a lot easier. If there's 1, you speak your mind, you get beat up, you go home and say you love your wife.
Well, I always have this part underlined about each competent adult. This is section 38 of Article 1. Each competent adult shall have the right to make his or her own health decisions. Okay. And then, of course, parent, guardian, legal representative, any other natural person shall have the right to make the health care decisions for that person. Governor Gordon did not have the right to make your health care decisions for you. He didn't have the right to appoint Dr. Hunter, that I can't remember her name, you said? Yeah, Harris. Yeah, she's gone now. Okay, but anyway, they had no right to do that to you at all. And we stood them up a little bit on that, right? I don't know if you remember a couple of years ago, it was pretty close to about this time. The chief of police, Sheridan, was going to go and close the business down simply because the lady was not requiring, the owner of the business was not requiring that her waiters and bartenders, this is over at Smith Allen Brewing. Anyway, I found out about it, went down there, and then people asked me what was going on with it, and I said, well, I'm gonna come down here, I want to sit here, I'm gonna have a sandwich, and I'm gonna watch Chief of Police violate this woman's constitutional rights and see if he gets away with it. She had her lawyer there, too. He was supposed to be there at 1 o'clock to shut her down. Now, she did everything right. She had the masks out. She said, here they are. If you choose to wear them, wear them. If you choose not to wear them, don't wear them. Because health, your own personal health, is your own responsibility, not the government's to deal with. All right. Well, he never showed up. There must have been 200 plus people down there by 1:30, 2 o'clock. We finally figured out that he wasn't going to show up. He must have got a phone call and realized that he was in hot water for doing what he was doing. Dr. Hunter, County Commission talked him into going 1 more year. They talked him into going. He didn't want to. He went 1 more year. Now Ben Widener is now they've appointed him as public health. And so we're going to see how that goes. I'm not sure how that's going to go for him because he's a little more loose cannon, kind of like a little bit more like we are in a lot of ways and stuff. But the whole point about mask mandates and vaccines and stuff like that is that from a cowboy standpoint, a rancher standpoint, you never quarantine the healthy. You only quarantine the sick. And you believe in herd immunity. So those are proven methods. What they were trying to cram down our throat was not proven methods, was not have anything much to do really with COVID. It had to do with control. Exactly. That's what it had. We want to see how far we can push these people. The Second Amendment, same thing. You know, we're looking at being under fire, and maybe we're going to have to. They're going to be coming door to door, and they're going to be saying, "Okay, we need to see your weapons and this and that." You know, and then no, we're not taking them yet. Okay, that's the point. The point is it's yet. We want to know what we're up against when we come to your house. Basically, that's kind of what it's. Second Amendment is bar none. There it is. It's black and white. They need to leave it alone. And there's a reason for it. No other country in its right mind will come to the United States and try to win a foot war with us. Because we got all the guns. We are more armed than any other country in the world. And when push comes to shove, somebody comes knocking down your door, you are going to defend yourself. And that's why they know we're going to be difficult. So they leave us alone. Take our guns away, not going to be so difficult. These are the things that, I guess the issues, what you were talking about, I think that kind of falls in there too. It's government overreach is what it is against freedom. So anyway, that's all I have to say. Go on.
Nobody wants to use my mic. Yeah. This is a tough situation for me personally. You know, I remember when this pandemic thing came out, and I remember getting a call at 10 o'clock. And I actually went to dinner with a friend of mine after we went to a Bible study, and we went and had a salad, and I noticed on social media that we have, you know, the first case in the state of Wyoming is in Sheridan. And we're thinking, oh, boy, wonder if, my buddy Mark is like, wonder if you know who it is, Jason. I know a lot of people. I get a call at 10:30 at night. It's my ex-wife, you know, and she wants to inform me that she's the first person in the state of Wyoming with COVID. You know, her and her band went to Jackson, and they're 3 of the first cases. You know, and I see how this begins. You know, and even before that, where our government, you know, uses media to install fear into the hearts of Americans. You know. I personally have a client that tested the vaccines. I don't call it that because it's not a vaccine, but tested the shot before it went out to the general public for Moderna and Johnson & Johnson. And, you know, he's like, do not take it, you know. I didn't watch Fox, or I didn't, you know, I went to social media outlets. I went to people in the government that I knew that would tell me some things. And, you know, you have to do your due diligence. But, you know, God gave me an immunity system, you know. If he's going to take me of COVID, you know, so be it. This is how I was meant to go. But I'm not going to let the fear, you know, run my life, that the government, you know, everything ever, you know, mandated or anything forced by the government, I don't think was ever good. If, you know, you can, check my facts, but when we're forced upon things, they don't turn out well. You know, I also, on the other end of the spectrum, it got worse for me. You know, I've been through it. I never wore masks. I was all cool with that because what's going to happen is one thing. It doesn't mean I don't wash my hands or do, you know, all these kind of things to keep other people safe. But, you know, it was worrisome to me because, you know, I have this belief that God's going to take care of me. You know, and I take care of myself, and I don't need a shot in there. And, you know, and I on the other hand, I have an ex-wife who's an atheist that You know, she got both kids vaccinated and without telling me, you know, and her husband at the time took my 9-year-old kid down there and signed as the parent and got him vaccinated, you know. That's the kind of stuff I deal with. You know, trust me, you know, the bad part of me wanted to go up there and wring that guy's neck. But God does not want me to be vengeful. You know, that was one of the hardest things, you know, and they're still trying to push this. And we're in a kind of a case, you know, I got an attorney to, you know, this is partly have to be our decision together, you know, and this has been a real challenge for me because you look at the science, it doesn't work. You know, the masks don't work. The kids, you know, don't get to be kids because of those kind of things. You know, they don't get to see the smiles. You know, you're turning us, you know, you're making us do all these things that, you know, basically communist government did through the years to test us. You know, we're going through this pre-communism thing back from the early 1800s that we're going through right now in our country because they want to change us. They want to install fear. They want to do all these things and take the choice, you know, out of the people. You know, and so I think government, to me, you know, me personally, they need to stay out of it and leave it to the people. You know, I'll go back to my immune system and be more grateful to that God gave me than any kind of medicine or shot out there. And, you know, there's things, natural vitamins and minerals and things that work well. You know, this government at the beginning didn't have a plan. Their plan was you stay home until you're so sick that you can come here to die. You know, that was their COVID hospital protocol. We all know that, you know, the monoclonal, you know, antibodies, they worked. But our government didn't put anybody that would have had problems, they come in and take that, get it done right away. You're going to be a lot better odds that you're going to be fine and you're going to build up natural immunity. That doesn't work with the vaccine. So, you know, we had something that works in this, you know, Regeneron and all these monoclonal, you know, antibodies that the government shut down because they actually knew it worked. I mean, that's sick. You know, that's the devil running the government. You know, and it's been going on this for 10 years since, you know, they've noticed, they've talked about we need population control. You know, the president of Pfizer came out 6 weeks ago, or it was 8 weeks ago now, and admitted that it was population control. How come we don't see that? Because you've got to find it, because the devil is kind of trying to hide the truth. So that's where I'm at. You got to do your research and you got to look at the right things.
By the way, I'm a 2-time COVID survivor. All right. And you're smiling back there because you know what I'm going to say. There was a cure for it. The government would not allow it. The FDA would not allow it. But most of my friends are cowboys, and so you always got a jug of ivermectin at your place. And I don't have that jug anymore. In fact, I'm down to half of my second jug because I give it away to other friends of mine because it's pretty expensive to get. You know, it's $80 I think now, and you better look the part when you go in there to buy it too. You know, or else they'll be looking at you kind of weird and they won't sell it to you. But the real funny story about the second time I got it is I could not believe it. We were right in the middle of haying, and I tell you what, about this time last year, it was really, really busy, and I made a mistake. I got off my regimen and not actually getting myself a little bit of ivermectin. I used it as a lotion up on my forearms here a little bit, not much, 2 or 3 days. Okay, and it works. But I got away from doing that, and then I had to run to town, and I have some old balers, and they run off of Supreme Unleaded and Candy ethanol and stuff, so you got to have the right station. So I went to the station, and I think that's where I got it the second time from. And I actually didn't even realize it. Well, so I had to hand load a bunch of hay and throw bales on a trailer. My sister was driving for me, And I got the perimeter all loaded out, but man, I was just really feeling terrible. So we backed the trailer into the barn that we were gonna unload it, and I said, we're just gonna unhook here, because I gotta go home. Well, then she got worried, she called my brother, both my brothers, both of them were alive at the time, they both showed up, and they picked me up, threw me in the truck, and away I go to the hospital, because my blood oxygen content was down below, well, it was like 77. All right, and that's borderline death is what they tell you. Okay, so I go to the hospital and go to the emergency room, and they do all these tests, and they do all these x-rays and stuff, and then finally the doctor comes in and says, yeah, he says, you got COVID. Okay, fine. I said, so are you going to give me anything for it? He said, unfortunately, we don't have anything we can give you for it. I said, really? He says, no, they won't let us do that. And I said, well, what can you do? And he said, well, we can put you in a room and make you comfortable. And I said, you what? He says, yeah, we're going to put you in a room and make you comfortable. And I said, okay, so you're just going to rack up a hospital bill for me and my insurance company, right? He says, yeah. And I says, well, Jim, my brother was there. I said, we're done here. We're going home. And the doctor said, well, what are you going to do? I said, I'll self-cure myself. I'll either that or I'll die at home. And he said, well, what are you going to use? And I said, ivermectin. And you know, that doctor had he knew, because he just looked at me and smiled and says, I think you're on the right track. And, you know, 2 weeks later I see him, I walk into his place, and of course I was on oxygen, and I think I was only on oxygen for like three weeks after that. It worked that fast, it just wiped it out. And then they finally gave me some medicine for the blood clots at that time. But the point was that at that time, COVID was something that they were not curing. They were not trying to cure it at all. They just, apparently they weren't allowed to give the medication that would work for it. And, you know, my niece cured her whole family, her 3 people in her family, by going and getting the horse paste and feeding it to them. You know, I thought it was kind of a funny story because he didn't like the taste, so she mixed it up with butterscotch pudding for me on that, and I'm laughing at her. So what's so funny? And I said, well, they make that in an apple flavor. My horses just love it, you know. You know, it just works, you know. But it's common horse sense type of stuff, and they refused to do that. And the reason was because they did not own anything with ivermectin. Well, ivermectin was, yeah, the FDA could. They said, no, you can't use that. But there are entire provinces in India that have cured the entire province with ivermectin. And they are totally COVID-free.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's some stuff going on there. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but there are definitely some stuff going on.
24 cents for 1.5 milliliters, which is the same as 15 milligrams of the solvent.
Yep.
So, it's not expensive. And that's why you weren't allowed to use it.
Right. Yeah, because it's cheap. Right.
We're gonna be done for this portion. You guys, thank you so much. You can come down and visit.